What would happen if Earth split in half? The ground doesn't shake, it tears. A fracture slices across continents. A fracture slices across oceans. The fracture spreads faster than anything can escape. Cities split mid-second. Entire land masses begin to separate. The planet isn't breaking, it's coming apart. Something far worse is already starting. At first there was confusion. No violent shaking, no warning sirens. A silent line cuts through everything. Roads separate without impact. Concrete pulls apart beneath unmoving feet. Vehicles stop at the edge of nothing. Drivers stare ahead in disbelief. Engines continue running without purpose. The road simply ends. Bridges stretch too far and snap. Entire spans collapse into darkness. Rail systems twist out of alignment. Trains derail without collision. Underground tunnels rupture instantly. Subways fill with collapsing debris. Escape routes vanish without warning. People look down and then back up. The horizon, well, it's no longer stable. The ground is shifting beneath their feet. The crack widens rapidly, and what were once meters quickly become kilometers. Distance, honestly, it just loses all meaning. The land pulls away in silence. There's no explosion, no warning at all. Water begins to move across oceans. It's not moving in waves, but with a kind of direction. Water is pulled toward this impossible gap. Entire coastlines collapse inward. Cliffs shear away without any resistance. Beaches just vanish beneath these retreating seas. The sea doesn't rise, it drains. Harbors empty within minutes. Boats settle on exposed seabeds, and then they start to slide toward the void. Ships tilt as the water disappears. Massive vessels descend into the fracture, and then ships vanish completely. Offshore platforms lose foundation instantly. Oil rigs collapse into the void. Energy extraction ends without warning. The surface disconnects within minutes. Continents stop behaving like continents. They become drifting sections of land. In just a matter of moments, the atmosphere and gravity descend into total chaos. Air currents twist unpredictably, and well, the familiar pull of gravity weakens and strengthens without warning. The world, as we've always known it, simply unravels. Countries lose shape instantly. Borders dissolve without conflict. Maps become, well, meaningless. Air traffic becomes unstable. Flight paths lose reference points. Pilots face impossible navigation. Aircraft instruments begin failing. Altitude readings lose consistency. Planes drift without stable gravity. The Earth's crust has fractured. The force comes from deeper below. The mantle lies beneath the surface. It is a vast ocean of molten rock. It is held under extreme pressure. It was normally contained. Now it is exposed. Fire spreads across continents. Entire regions ignite simultaneously. Mountains collapse into molten depths. Forests combust without warning. Wildlife flees in impossible directions. There is nowhere safe. The sky begins to darken. Ash and vapor rise from the exposed mantle. Sunlight starts to fade. The sun becomes a dim circle. Day turns to permanent twilight. Shadows lose definition. Air becomes heavy, particles fill the atmosphere, visibility drops rapidly, breathing becomes difficult. The atmosphere is held by gravity, a balance of mass and force, but now that balance is failing. As Earth separates into two massive halves, gravity becomes uneven. In some places, weight increases, bodies feel heavier, movement slows dramatically. In others, weight weakens, objects lift slightly, then drift unpredictably. Loose debris floats briefly, then accelerates sideways violently. Balance is lost, walking becomes unstable, and, well, standing becomes difficult. Falling becomes unavoidable. Debris shifts sideways, pulled toward a stronger gravitational pull. This is the moment of the final separation. Forces build to their peak, dividing what once was whole. The familiar world splits apart, and boundaries that held firm for so long are finally torn asunder. There's a sense of inevitability now, as everything is drawn toward its own fate, unable to resist. The separation is complete, and nothing will ever be quite the same again. Buildings lean in unnatural directions. Foundations fail without warning. Structures collapse unevenly. Skyscrapers twist under stress, glass shatters outward, and steel frames buckle. The air begins to move. Winds accelerate, not across the surface, but toward the fracture. Hurricane-force currents form instantly. Air rushes into the widening void. Debris lifts into the sky, then disappears into darkness. Breathing becomes unstable. Pressure drops unevenly. Ears fail to adjust. Internal strain builds. Blood oxygen levels begin dropping. Human bodies struggle to adapt. Survival time decreases rapidly. The sky begins to stretch. Cloud systems distort, pulled between two separating worlds. Storm systems collapse mid-formation. Lightning flashes unpredictably. Electrical systems overload. Energy disperses into chaos. Then they break. The atmosphere tears. Massive streams of air escape into space. The sound disappears with it. Silence spreads, not calm silence, vacuum silence. The oceans continue to collapse. Water drains into the growing gap, not falling but being pulled. Entire ocean floors are briefly exposed. Ancient ridges and trenches appear, then vanish. Deep-sea ecosystems collapse instantly. Pressure loss destroys biological structures. Life ends without transition. Tsunamis rise without impact. Walls of water form, then disappear. Marine life has no time to react. Ecosystems collapse instantly. Creatures adapted to pressure and depth lose everything within moments. On land, survival becomes impossible. Temperature shifts violently. In regions near exposed mantle, we see extreme heat taking over. Surfaces begin to glow, pushed to their limits under relentless thermal stress. Meanwhile, other areas start freezing rapidly. With the loss of the atmosphere, there's just no way to retain heat anymore. Within just a few hours, these extremes completely dominate. The cycle of day and night, well, it collapses, temperature regulation disappears entirely, and honestly, climate as we know it simply ceases to exist. Without any atmospheric stability, heat just can't circulate. The planet, it can no longer regulate itself, it only reacts. Infrastructure everywhere fails, and it happens really fast. Power grids collapse one after another. Energy systems shut down and there's no coordination left. Communication just ends. Signals can't travel through such unstable conditions. Satellites drift out of alignment and navigation systems, well, they fail. Global positioning simply disappears. Transportation systems collapse too. In the end, movement becomes impossible. Financial systems fail instantly. Markets freeze without data flow. The global economy collapses silently. Food supply chains collapse immediately. Distribution networks cease functioning. Shortages become instant and permanent. There is no coordination, no response, only fragmentation. From orbit, the transformation is clear. The Earth is no longer whole. Two massive halves hang in space, still close, but no longer connected. Between them, a widening void. Fragments drift between both sides. Cities break apart. Land becomes debris. Some fragments are pulled back, others are lost into space. Gravity between the halves creates tension. Tidal forces tear at what remains. Edges crumble. Entire regions collapse inward. The crust continues breaking. Nothing stabilizes. Nothing settles. The magnetic field collapses. The core is no longer contained. Radiation begins reaching the surface. Solar exposure increases rapidly. There is no protection left. DNA damage accelerates. Biological systems fail rapidly. Life cannot sustain itself. Time continues, but systems do not. The planet cannot recover from this. There is no equilibrium, no return. Eventually, the two halves drift farther apart. Distance increases. Gravitational connection weakens. The gap widens as the connection fades. Orbital paths begin to destabilize. Fragments shift unpredictably. System coherence disappears. What was once Earth becomes debris. A broken system orbiting the Sun. Fragments scatter slowly. Some fall inward, others drift outward into deep space. Some collide, breaking into smaller pieces. Others continue drifting, unchanged, silent, cold, unrecoverable. Because a planet is not just rock, it is balanced. Gravity, pressure, motion. The moment that balance is lost, everything else follows, and once it begins, it cannot be stopped.
I'll be back.